From the Watergate Building in Washington, this is Hotline TV. Now, here's Hotline editor, John Mercurio.
Welcome to Hotline TV. I'm Amy Walter.
And I'm John Mercurio. It's Wednesday, and now that we've had some alone time, some quality time with the second quarter fundraising totals, we are ready to share our thoughts.
So that's what you're doing, locked in your room?
That's what I was doing part of the time.
Yeah,
part of the time,
you were with
yes.
your numbers alone.
Indeed, indeed. Me and Bobby McGee. All right, what are the big surprises coming out of these reports?
What are your big surprises? Yeah, I don't know if there are any more surprises. Right now that we've all learned that Ron Paul actually has more cash, and then John McCain, we're still going to see the very high burn rate for Giuliani, I think was somewhat surprising. We knew that Romney was spending a good deal of money.
Right.
Obviously,
on his own television
ads, which, in the same time, if the argument is, well, we're spending a lot of money on TV to help move the numbers, to help generate the enthusiasm, to help raise the money, that doesn't necessarily work out so well considering the fact that he had to write himself a big check. But for somebody like Bill Richardson, however, I think that did help him. The fact that he spent not a whole lot of money in Iowa and New Hampshire, up on TV, you're seeing something of a movement in the polls. You're hearing a little bit of buzz in these early states about Bill Richardson, and that has helped him, and he hasn't had to spend a whole lot of money to be able to do that.
You know, I'm just going to actually move away from the presidential campaign to the Senate races, where I think you're starting to see a little bit of a trend, which is races that Democrats a couple of months ago, even despite their new majority and despite the positive political climate for their party, weren't really expecting that they were going to be able to target. Races like Alabama, races like Texas, where the early fundraising reports, or the early reports for their candidates, still probably long shots against Jeff Sessions, against John Cornyn, did surprisingly well. A lot of the money was sort of, or some of the money was self-loaned or self-contributed, but to a large extent, what it's looking like is this could be a cycle where people like John Cornyn, who had a tough race when he ran the first time in 2002, and Jeff Sessions, who's always sort of targeted but always wins comfortably, could have tough races. And I think they're thinking about that when they're looking at this issue, when they're looking at the issue of Iraq, when they're looking at immigration, when they're looking at how close they want to be to President Bush when they're running for re-election. It's forcing them, I think, to sort of have that meeting with their advisors at this point and say, okay, wait, do we have a tough race, and do we need to actually focus more on fundraising than we thought we were going to have to? And I think that's actually the big surprise.
Well, it is a big story, and you know what? The fact is, Republicans have been able to always spend their way out of problems, especially on the House side, but even on the Senate side. That when you have the White House, you can just kind of go to the president in a pinch, get him down, raise $1 million or so, help get your candidate off and running, or they can find money. The RNC always supposed to be better funded than the DNC, but the reality is now the two campaign committees on Democratic side for the House and Senate, both better funded than the Republicans. And so you're right, it means that we could see a cycle really where Democrats end up outspending Republicans, which seems totally unheard of. And that would be unbelievable.
You saw Bush go down to Alabama just a few weeks ago in the middle of the immigration fight to raise money for Jeff Sessions. I wonder if we're going to see more of that, sort of candidates, Republican incumbent senators, voting against the president, distancing themselves from the president, criticizing the president on Lou Dobbs and the cable networks all day long, and then at night going home to their states to raise money with him. It's going to be a really sort of awkward dance, if you will, between this unpopular White House and the sort of embattled Republican senators. Something to look out for.
It is something to look out for.
But unfortunately, we're out of time for today, so we'll close with Paul Simon's comforting spin on Dodd's numbers offered in Iowa last weekend.
The reason I'm here for Chris is really simple. He simply outbid the other candidates. We're being paid $1.7 million for this.